Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Prismagica Gemstone deck profile for post-Lyrical Melody. This is the next deck in the lineup for all the different deck profiles from the Lyrical Melody booster set that I'll be doing. This one focuses on the unit Prismagica Wilista, being a unit that focuses on using the different gemstone normal orders we have. I believe there's two, a ruby and a sapphire, and gaining different card abilities when you soul blast the different orders, which go into the soul after you use the cards as a normal order. A very, very interesting take on the use of normal orders, which a lot of different decks in the Lyrical Melody booster set do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck. Like all the other ride decks, they focus on one unit of the same name for all the different grades, with our starter being Brilliance in the Ore, Wilista. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card showing the same card ability like all the other different starters, with our grade 1 being Proof of Hard Work, Wilista. When this unit is rode upon, put one card from your hand into your soul, search your deck for up to one gem card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So the gem cards are the different orders that you use in the deck. Like I said, we have the Sapphire and the Ruby normal orders that we use in the deck, with this card just being great for that search power, being able to add one to our hand for us to immediately use and build up the soul with those orders. Our grade 2 is Expanding World, Wilista. On Vanguard, once per turn, when you play a gem card, draw a card. So with it, you normally do have the option of just playing an order once during a turn, but you gain an additional use of your order cards with this deck, which we'll see with some of the other units we run. So with it, you have those play styles taken care of with your grade 2, with our grade 3 being the Prismagica Wilista. Like I said, this card gains different abilities based on what you soul blast for your order during that turn, and also being the focus of our Persona rides. We're running 3 additional copies of Prismagica Wilista. And with this card, you soul blast. If you soul blast a True-Hearted Ruby until the end of this turn, this unit gets plus 15,000 and your opponent cannot intercept. And if you soul blast Everlasting Sapphire, you look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 unit cards from among them, call them to open rear guards, discard the rest, and those units get plus 5,000 until end of turn. So you can use each one of these cards' abilities if you have the Sapphire and the Ruby built up, being able to call units and also just power up your Prismagica Wilista, and having the additional option for those gemstones to give you draw power and power to other units on the field, while then going into the soul after you use them. So you definitely want to use 3 of this card, so you always have the option for the Persona ride to give you additional power to your front row, but also just to build up more soul for you to use, and also just to give you more options for the different gemstones. For our other grade 3s, I'm also running 3 of the Attentive Deep Love Oteli. With this card on rear, when you play True-Hearted Ruby, if your Vanguard is Prismagica Wilista, until the end of this turn, this unit gets plus 10,000 power, and you can play an additional order this turn. So with it, the original play is to then activate your True-Hearted Ruby, and then given the option for the additional one to then activate Everlasting Sapphire, setting up both of these cards into the soul of Prismagica Wilista, being able to then soul blast both to gain additional units onto the field. I may even consider running 4 of this card. If I were to do so, I'll show you what cards to take out in just a bit. But another grade 3 I run are 2 Relaxed Conversation, Philomena. When this unit is placed on rear, you can play an additional order this turn. So this is just another option that lets you use orders for the play. Unlike your Oteli, this doesn't get additional power. It just gives you the option of using that additional order. So a little more budget use also, but just liking to expand the options for using the 2 different orders with all of our different grade 3s that we run in the deck. Our only grade 2 that we run in the deck, and I was considering even just mixing around numbers for this card, and that is Unrelenting Talent, Henrietta. On rear, when this unit is boosted, you can soul blast 1 until end of that battle, increase this unit's power by the original shield of the boosting unit. So with this card, you have just an additional power boost to rely on with the boost that you provide. If you didn't want to run Henrietta, you can always just avoid the grade 2 count and go for more of a grade 3 setup, running 2 more Philomena and the additional Oteli, giving you all the cards needed to guarantee that you'll be able to use 2 of your normal orders every turn against your opponent, because that's where your main play comes down to, being able to play your Ruby and your Sapphire. And that's it for the grade 2s. Moving on now to the grade 1s. I am running 4 of the Mini Live After School Cantina. With this card, when this unit is placed on rear, you Soul Blast 1, discard a card from your hand, choose a gem card from your drop zone, and put it into your hand. So this is just another way to make use of the Soul Blasted gemstones that you use after Soul Blasting with your Prismagica Wilista. Being able to then add those cards back to your hand, you do have to give up a card in your hand to do so, and you also have to Soul Blast. So just make sure you're not Soul Blasting into the other gemstones. That's where the Persona Ride definitely does come in handy, because then that's what you'll use for your Soul Blast, for your Katina, being able to then just add those cards back to your hand for the use of the unnecessary soul in your Vanguard Soul to use to get those cards back to your hand, depending on which one you need. Just a gem card also, so it doesn't have to be a particular one for you to add back. So given the option, if you have a ruby in your hand, you can add a sapphire and vice versa. And I also run 3 Tranquil Affection Elvira. When you play Everlasting Sapphire, if your Vanguard is Prismagica Wilista, you draw a card. So this card goes off of just the Sapphire card. We had some that focused on True Hearted Ruby, but with Everlasting Sapphire, you have more of a playstyle to use with draw power, hoping to be able to at least draw into more of the normal orders that you can then use in the following turns. And then for the rest of the grade 1s, we are running 4 of the Musical Committee Nicoline. Just once again, preference for the Sentinel doesn't really matter with this deck. There's no specific type of card that you can use that would benefit, like with the Ghost deck or the Dragon deck. So just the preference of choice being the Sentinel to use, I would say, is the most fitting aesthetic-wise for this deck altogether, and sharing the same skill as all the other ones if you have the 2 Sentinels in hand and you guard with 1. Since they specify if you have 2 or more cards in your hand, you choose a card from your hand, discard it. So if you only have the 1 other Sentinel, you'll at least be able to save this one in your hand for you then to guard against your opponent's final attack, especially in situations where they get an over trigger or just have a powerful unit that you can't block normally. And then moving on now to the normal orders that we play. For the first one being the True Hearted Ruby. You play this card with a counterblast of 1, which we really don't counterblast too much in this deck. But with True Hearted Ruby, you draw 2 cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it, and put this card into your soul. So the activation of this card won't go into the drop zone, it'll go into the soul of your Prismagica Wilista, being able to then provide the soul blast needed for that card to gain its skill. We've gone over that skill plenty enough in this video, but the skill provides the plus 15,000 power, and your opponent cannot intercept. So with 4 of this as the max number, you definitely do want to run, giving you draw power to then potentially go in to our next order unit, which we are running 4 of the Everlasting Sapphire. Choose one of your units and it gets plus 5,000 until end of turn, and then put this card into your soul. It doesn't require any counterblast or soul blast like that. It's just an added activation of a 5,000 to a unit, and it doesn't have to be a rear guard, it can be your Vanguard as well. And then it going into the soul, and with cards like Tranquil Affection Elvira, giving you draw power when you activate this card, it basically does provide the draw 1 if you have that card on the field, which you can then also draw into using your True Hearted Ruby. And what's also great about these normal orders, they're both grade 0 ones, so you can activate them pretty early on in the game if you have the resources to use. And that is it for the normal orders. Moving on now to the rest of the grade 0s. We went over the starter with the Ride deck, but running 8 criticals. So we're going with actually 7 critical original style Ashuka and 3 of the Grimming Dragon Scale Ilse. Just the 7 so we can make room for the over trigger. But for the other trigger count, I'm also running 4 front trigger, running 2 Running Start Youth Haida, and also 2 Glee Singing Totuel. So this is just for preference to keep your opponent guessing on what your trigger lineup may be against them. And the front trigger, with all the other power boosts we have, we can hit for some pretty big numbers in the deck, with the last being the heal trigger of choice, which are 4 Peaceful Garden Anika. Once again, just preference. There's no real specification to what heal trigger you need to run in this deck, but our over trigger with our Prismagica Wilista being a human, I wanted to go with the human over trigger as well, so Greatest Star Esperanza. And with this one, sharing all the same abilities of all the other over triggers for Lyrical Monasterio, being if you drive check this card, it gains the additional effect along with the 100 million of during this fight you get during your turn, all your rear guards get plus 10,000 power. This immense pressure definitely will be useful against your opponent, just having those numbers to use. So early game drive check of this card is definitely a luck that you can rely on to then basically take it for immense pressure for all your different rear guards for the rest of the game. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Steadily going through all the different Lyrical Monasterio decks. I hope you're all enjoying them for those that are fans of the deck or those that were fans of Bermuda Triangle, and looking forward to these decks as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.